Especially welcome if this is your first visit. If you are visiting again, welcome back. I've got a special mention for Rodin A. Colomar, who is a new follower, and I want to welcome you and thank you for following. I encourage everyone, of course, to follow. If you are able to press, well, I suppose it's down there somewhere, there's a follow button or a subscribe button or any of those things. Follow, subscribe, share, engage with us. Then please do so, because I'm very, very keen to stay in touch with you, to hear what questions you may have, if you've got any questions, and at the same time, you know, just to get to know each other, right? That would be great. So, we've just had a like from David Price, which is very, very nice. Father David, of course, is the chaplain of St George's Anglican Church here in Pattaya in Thailand, where I am an ordinand. My formation is being overseen by Father David, and from September I am looking to join a 3-year online academic course on ministry, which should complement the formation which is happening in context here in the Thailand chapel. That course, by the way, will be starting with Sarum College. There are a few things still to iron out, so we're midway through the ID check, and I don't appear at the moment to have sufficient documents which have this address in Thailand written in English with my name on it. Most of the things here, obviously, are in my wife's name, and I say obviously because she can read and write, and obviously just deals with the correspondence. So we'll see how that goes. Recently I did receive an updated UK driving licence, which has been sent off to Sarum, but that's with an English address. It's not here in Thailand, so I'm not sure that that's good enough, but I've given them everything. I'm not sure what else I can do. I might end up having to go to immigration to try to get some sort of confirmation of residency, or residence confirmation, a letter, just to say yes, this is where I live. Anyway, we'll see what we can get. Anyway, now, what are we going to do today? We've got a few things to talk about. The first thing that I would like to talk to you about today is the Church Times. So I've got this is news, so notable events, weather and sport. This is notable. I've taken out a subscription with the Church Times, which I think really, in terms of why it's very good. Normally I run through the headlines in the email that I receive, and that's enough. But because of this streaming, because of this thing we are doing most evenings, I want to be able to have a bit more of a discussion with you. I want to be able to have a bit more of a conversation about the issues affecting the church, about maybe some of the things which are affecting me and my thought processes, my studies, and I want really, I suppose, to talk to you in a meaningful conversation where we can have a bit of a dialogue, okay? And you would be very, very welcome to join me in that dialogue by jumping on the chat, either on Twitch, or commenting on Facebook, or commenting on the YouTube. Any means would be all good and very, very welcome. So we're going to be exploring the church times. Then after having had a look at the headlines of church times, and then talking about a couple of the articles in the church times this week, what we are going to do is go through the order of service. And that's the order of service for tomorrow's service here at St George's Church in Pattaya in Thailand. And I hope that you decide to come along and attend our service, which is going to be streamed online. As this is streamed, it's going to be streamed as through this same medium, through this, which is using Streamlabs OBS. So we will be streaming tomorrow in the same way as this, and you are welcome to join us. The stream of the service will start to go out at 3 p.m. tomorrow, and you know, please come along. Now, what you will need for that service, I'm going to show you. All right, so that's the second part of today's transmission. The third thing we're going to be doing today, which I know many of you who have watched this transmission roll your eyes when I say Tillich, but that's because it's a bit dry. We're going to be visiting Father Tom's book of Paul Tillich, which is the Systematic Theology, okay, and it's a book that Father Tom has suggested I read and think about and get to understand, and it's we have to finish 423 pages, okay, and Father Tom and I, we meet every Tuesday, all right, and we meet every Tuesday between 2 and 2:45 or 2 and 3 o'clock really in the afternoon here in Thailand, and we talk about what I have read about and processed and learnt in Tillich's systematic theology during the preceding week. Now, normally the motivation is the meeting next week, and that's normally sufficient for me to read a maximum of 5 pages. That's me being fair, right? This has been going on for months. This has been going on for months and months, and I've only read 100 pages, right? Well, then, I can't remember what day it was, whether it was last week or the week before, we had a bit of a chat about an idea, a notion of could it be finished by Easter? And I was like, sure. And he was like, well, would you say the same thing if 1,000 baht were involved? So we've got another viewer. That's quite nice to see. Very nice to see. In fact, welcome. I hope you're a returning viewer. You might be a new viewer, in which case doubly welcome, or maybe that should be the other way around. Either way, so Father Tom said, what about if there was 1,000 baht involved? And of course, here in Thailand, we are not allowed to gamble, and we don't condone gambling, and no one I know ever would dream of gambling. And so it's a notional gamble of 1,000 baht. Imagine if 1,000 baht were to, because of failing, have to go from my imaginary pocket and flitter across the sky to Father Tom's. Well, I wouldn't enjoy that at all. I would much prefer the principle of the sportsman's bet of the notional 1,000 baht being lost from Father Tom's pocket and flittering its way towards me. And if that could happen whilst I can see his face on FaceTime, well, I'm sure it would actually give him pleasure to know that I've read Tillich. So I don't want to say that there would be any ounce of pain going on, but I know that he would prefer the notion going the other way. Now, so that's the third thing we're going to do. We're going to read Tillich again. We're going to read 2 pages of Tillich. That's the target. All right. So we've got church times, order of service, Tillich, and then what we have come to do, which is our standard process every day, is to read the collect for the evening prayer from the Church of England website. So and that closes the transmission. We've got 3 viewers now. This is different from usual. Welcome. We've not had 3 viewers before. I mean, I'm very, very pleased to see you, and I'm going to keep on saying that. If you would please follow, it's that way round. If you would follow or subscribe or do any of those things that you can do, if you can like us, then that would be great. I encourage you to. So for those who don't know, my name is Lloyd Hobart Mitchell, and I'm the ordinand. I'm an ordinand with St George's Anglican Church here in Pattaya in Thailand, and we have an agenda today, which is to look at the church times, the order of service, and to read a bit of Tillich. So without further ado, let's shoot over to the church times, and we'll have a quick look at the headlines there today. And we can see that it says, this is coinciding with in the UK, the restrictions being lifted, the COVID restrictions being lifted. And the headline that we can see there is latest church COVID advice, proceed with caution. Now my understanding is that congregations and choirs are allowed to sing. Bell ringers are allowed to ring their bells. Of course, everyone is encouraging bell ringers to sanitize their hands and wash their hands all the time. Choirs and choristers are being encouraged to have doors open, have windows open, to have movement of air, and if possible, especially seeing it's the middle of summer, to have events outside where possible. If people are going to congregate, and they will, congregate outside because it's significantly safer. So responsibility is being laid on the individual by the government. The church has placed responsibility on the local churches, local parish councils, to make their own decisions about the best way forward for them. And of course there is what's being described as a mixed ecology in terms of different types of buildings, different types of churches, different places of worship. And so this idea of one size fits all, it's unwelcome, right? So I do think the principle, I mean, if you're asking my opinion, do I think that the restrictions should remain with COVID? You know, it's a political question, but do I think they should just be relaxed, going from something which is restrictive to absolutely nothing? No. I think lives are going to be lost, and I think those lives are going to be lost unnecessarily. Do I think that the economic suffering warrants, somehow balances out those folk who are going to suffer from COVID and maybe die? Well, actually, if it was my sister or my mother or my grandmother who was dying because of COVID, because the government decided to relax everything, I would be devastated. And so I just think everyone should be, until the vaccinations get to a certain point, I think everyone needs to be really careful. A bit like here in Thailand. So here in Thailand, I only know a handful of people who have had the COVID jab, we are, the numbers are going up, right? And it's rather dangerous, I think, really. So to that end, I mean, I work at home. I think anyone who has looked at the Twitch transmission has seen that I work at home. I've been, I haven't done this on Facebook or YouTube, but we've had transmissions running while I work. And so yesterday, I think it was about 12 hours. Today, it was about 14 hours of stream. And I don't go anywhere, right? I stay in, and I'm either working or I'm in this room. And today I was in this room making shelves behind me and putting books on shelves and testing whether the shelves were any good. Could they carry the weight? And so far, so good. So, yeah, I think, look, everyone has to do what they have to do, but not at the expense of people's lives. It's pretty straightforward, really. I would err on the side of caution if I were a member of any of the PCCs. If I was, local clergy, I would encourage people to socially distance at least. At least everyone would be washing hands, and if in doubt, do wear a mask. Right? That's it. So a couple of things there. Churches, German churches offer support as the floods death toll rises. Terrible what's occurred in Germany, and prayers to them, of course. Absolutely devastating. Interesting article here about Northern Ireland. Of course, Mr. Johnson, our Prime Minister in England, is suggesting that with a statute of limitations to apply relating to all Troubles-related incidents before 1998. So Mr. Johnson, who, and I don't know if this has already become law, I haven't read it sufficiently, but my understanding is Mr. Johnson has suggested what we need to do is draw a line underneath the I mean it's generational problems. Just draw a line under it. Draw a line, move on. Well, I think I've thought about this. When I saw the headline, I'm not intimately involved. I don't have, as far as I know, family in Northern Ireland. My grandfather, my paternal grandfather's family came over from Ireland and moved to Manchester, and so there is some. Sympathy. There's huge amounts of sympathy for the Irish people, for what happened specifically in the famine, but also for generations, in terms of what the English government have done, the British government have done, and I think this idea that folk need to draw a line is, in the politest way. In fact, the Catholic Archbishop, the Roman Catholic Archbishop of Armagh, the Most Reverend Eamon Martin, was very, very polite and said drawing a line is a naive comment. Naive's very, very, very diplomatic, ignorant of the facts, and deaf to the cries of those people who were affected by the Troubles, people who lost their parents or their grandparents or their uncles or their aunties or their fathers or their mothers or their sons or their daughters or their cousins or their neighbours or their friends. It was appalling, and everything that has happened since the Belfast Agreement has been good, but this principle of just drawing a line and forgetting about it, that's what it sounds like, seems a bit sad, right? It seems a bit as if it's leaving the relatives and friends of those victims whose deaths have not found justice, where there have been no prosecutions, where there has been no justice really. It's as if those victims who have been fighting for justice for decades really have been betrayed. It's a betrayal, isn't it? I think. That's an opinion. That's an opinion. Okay, there we are. So again, prayers for them too, I think. Now, going on, I know that I could look at the UK. One thing that we haven't spoken about in our transmission, which I would like to, and by the way, I've got 3 viewers again. If anyone would like to chat in Twitch and say hello, you're very, very welcome. One thing that we will be doing is going down, and I think it was on the 2nd of, was it the 2nd of July? Yes, it was the 2nd of July when Synod were to discuss, and I haven't seen what happened since then, but were to discuss this idea of having a target of 10,000 new lay-led churches in the next 10 years, and the principle being that they would be bringing hundreds of thousands, if not a million new followers to the church over the next 10 years. So it's bold, and the knee-jerk reaction from the clergy, who's I've got friends on Facebook and such. The immediate reaction was, well, but this is an abandoning situation where those folk who are part of the church, who have studied and worked so hard to be ordained, etc., will feel left behind, and that it's almost like from this headline. I don't know why, but from this headline, and I'd like to know the background of this. Maybe it was almost like this is the future of the Church of England, as if in the future all of the bricks and mortar churches which are in towns and villages up and down the country are somehow going to be auctioned off and made into flats, and that's not what this article says. What this article says is that there needs to be a mixed ecology of places of worship, okay? And that one of the pillars of the strategy going forwards will be this idea of 10,000 new churches which are home-led, lay-led churches, where, and the bit I have is interesting, is many of the 10,000 churches would start small and some would remain as 20 or 30 people meeting in a home. And this is the bit that kind of, I suppose, confused me. I thought this is interesting, because I can't, I've been to a handful of houses which would be able to accommodate a meeting of 30 people. A handful in my 45 years of living on earth. Most houses of folk I know are, and yeah, it's different in the summer. If you could throw everyone out in the garden, then yes, why not? Why not? You can have lots of plastic chairs, 20 or 30 people meeting, throw them out in the garden, and they would just about fit. But I don't know anyone who could accommodate 20 or 30 people in their lounge. I don't know anyone. As I say, once I remember going to a very beautiful house in Selling in Kent, and it was one of my trustees who owned it, who was a lovely man called Dennis, and his lovely wife, and they had a big house. They could have accommodated 20 or 30 people in their house quite happily, but that's one. I'm trying to think who else I knew who could accommodate 20 or 30 people regularly. I don't know many. I don't know many people. So, yes, it's a nice idea. This idea of this mixed ecology of different places of worship, and it makes sense to me. It does make sense to me in one area specifically, where let's imagine you're a person who you've got a choice, right? Maybe you've got a kid, maybe you've got 2 kids, and you've got a choice between going up the road to meet in someone's house. The little house church that's around the corner, a stone's throw away from where you live, or you have to get on the bus and travel into town, or maybe travel across town to where Christ Church is, and you're going in there, and that would be your normal church, but actually it's a massive job to get 2 kids ready for the bus for the church, and really you're writing off the best part of the whole day, and in the end maybe you don't go to anything. And that's where I think maybe this is a good idea. Maybe this will result in more people doing something than doing nothing. And if that's the case, if we're getting 1 million people who otherwise would be doing nothing, then great. It's a good idea. Yeah? If what we're saying is they're going to, disband churches and, burn the abbeys and get rid of clergy and go down this volunteer route, I don't think that's a good idea at all. Okay? But if it is a kind of complementary to, as opposed to a replacement of, then yeah, it's a good idea, and we should try it, and everyone should get involved, and everyone should see how successful it is, and maybe it works, and that would be all good, and maybe more people are going to turn up to the Christ Church service across the other side of town because of it, right? Okay, now what we are going to do now is jump across to the St George's Patia website, which is stgeorgespatia.com, and what I'll do is I'm going to share that that URL in the chat box on Twitch. I don't know if that comes out anywhere else, but certainly it's on Twitch. And then we're going to go to the sermons section in the top bar menu. And then we're going to go to the 8th Sunday after Pentecost, which is tomorrow's order of service. Now, we do this every time we have forthcoming service. There's always an order of service there, and below that there's an archive of services from weeks prior. What you will find when you go into the forthcoming service is the order of service, okay? And first of all, you can see, are you in the right place? Is it the 16th Sunday in ordinary time? Is it the 7th Sunday after Trinity? Are we looking at a year B, track 2? And is it proper 11? All of these things, depending on what your tradition is, what you observe. Now, I draw your attention here. It says scroll to the bottom of the page for the media player where you can hear the music and practice your singing. So there's the hymn, the first hymn, and then we go down and we've got the liturgy has started. We've got the collect of the day. We've got the first reading. the response, and the second reading, and the acclamation, and the gospel, and the homily, which nothing there, because we get that later. Only after it's been said inside the chapel do we pop it up on the interweb. Then we've got the creed, and then we've got the intercession, nothing there. Only after we've read it out in the chapel will we pop it up on the interweb. Then we've got the confession, then we've got the absolution, then we've got the peace, then we've got the hymn, and then we've got the offertory. Now, what's wonderful, and I could carry on, right? We've got the, there's the Eucharistic prayer, and it goes on all the way down to the bottom, and then we've got the third recessional hymn. Now, what's great about this is after the nice button that says contribute to our work, which of course I would ask you to pay attention to, there is a section, there's a media player at the bottom where you can click and hear the hymn. Look. So, that means that you can, week on week, practice your hymn singing, and you can take part in our service. You can actually take part. You can sing along. There's no reason why not. Okay? So, there you are. It's all at the bottom of the page. We'll have a look to see whether we change that. It may well be that we have the media player after each hymn. Okay? So at the end of the hymn we have a little media player in there. I'll have a look. I'll have to have a chat to Father David if that's possible or not. I'm not sure. Okay. So what has that brought us? It's brought us now to Tillich. Okay, it's brought us to Tillich, and we're at it's past, and so we are at Tillich time. Okay, Tillich time, and so we're going to start, and I think we're here, aren't we? We're going to start where we talk about. We've just spoken about sex, haven't we? We've just spoken about this. I'm not going to reread that. But shall I reread it? Yes, we will reread it. Okay, just because then it's read and it's an introduction to the next bit, I suppose. So, oh, hello, Ellie. Yeah, very good. Good to see you. So Ellie is a member of our congregation, Ellie Khalid, and I'm guessing it's Khalid probably who said hello there, and has liked the stream. So we were going to read this, and it says, revelation through natural mediums is not natural revelation. Natural revelation, if distinguished from revelation through nature, is a contradiction in terms. For if it is natural knowledge, it is not revelation. And if it is revelation, it makes nature ecstatic and miraculous. Natural knowledge about self and world cannot lead to the revelation of the ground of being. It can lead to the question of the ground of being. And that is what so-called natural theology can do and must do. But this, when we turn the page, question is asked neither by natural revelation nor by natural theology. It is a question of reason about its own ground and abyss. It is asked by reason, but reason cannot answer it. Revelation can answer it. And this answer is based neither on a so-called natural revelation nor on a so-called natural theology. It is based on real revelation, on ecstasy and sign events. Natural theology, and even more definitely natural revelation, are misnomers for the negative side of the revelation of the mystery, for an interpretation of the shock and stigma of non-being. Cognitive reason can go as far as this. It can develop the question of the mystery in the ground of reason, but every step beyond the analysis of this situation is either inconclusive, arguing, or a remnant of traditional beliefs, or both. When Paul speaks of the idolatrous perversion of a potential knowledge of God through nature, he does not challenge the nations because of their questionable arguing, but because of their distortion of revelations through nature. Nature in special sections, or nature as a whole, can be a medium of revelation in an ecstatic experience. But nature cannot be an argumentative basis for conclusions about the mystery of being. Even if it could be this, it should not be called natural theology, and even less natural revelation. B. History groups and individuals as mediums of revelation. Historical events, groups, or individuals as such are not mediums of revelation. It is the revelatory constellation into which they enter under special conditions that make them revelatory, not their historical significance or their social or personal greatness. If history points itself in a correlation of ecstasy and sign event, revelation occurs. If groups of persons become transparent for the ground of being and meaning, revelation occurs. But its occurrence cannot be foreseen or derived from the qualities of persons, groups, and events. It is historical, social, and personal destiny. It stands under the directing creativity of the divine life. Historical revelation is not revelation in history, but through history. Since man is essentially historical, every revelation, even if it is mediated through a rock or a tree, occurs in history. But history itself is revelatory only if a special event or a series of events is experienced ecstatically as miracle. Such experiences can be connected with great creative or destructive events in national history. The political events then are interpreted as divine gifts, judgments, promises, and therefore as a matter of ultimate concern and a manifestation of the mystery of being. History is the history of groups, represented and interpreted by personalities. Both groups and personalities can become mediums of revelation in connection with historical events of a revelatory character. The group, which has an ecstatic experience in relation to its historical destiny, can become a medium of revelation for other groups. That is what Jewish prophetism anticipated when it included all nations in the blessing of Abraham and foresaw all nations coming to Mount Zion to adore the God of Israel. The Christian Church always has been conscious of its vocation to be the bearer of revelations for nations and individuals. In the same way, personalities connected with revelatory events can become mediums of revelation themselves, either as representatives or as interpreters of these events. and sometimes as both. Moses, David, and Peter are described as representatives as well as interpreters of revelatory events. Cyrus represents a revelatory happening, but 2nd Isaiah interprets it. Paul, the missionary, represents, while Paul, the theologian, interprets a revelatory event. In both functions, in all these men are mediums of historical revelation, and all of them, as well as the events themselves, points to something that transcends them infinitely, to the self-manifestation of that which concerns us ultimately. Revelation through personalities is not restricted to those who represent or interpret history. Revelation can occur through every personality which is transparent for the ground of being. The prophet, although a medium of historical revelation, does not exclude other personal mediums of revelation. The priest who administers the sphere of the holy, the saint who embodies holiness himself, the ordinary believer who is grasped by the divine spirit can be mediums of revelation for others and for a whole group. It is not the priestly function as such, however, which has revelatory character. A mechanized administration of religious rites can exclude any revelatory presence of the holy reality which it claims to mediate. Only under special conditions does the priestly function reveal the mystery of being. The same is true of the saint. The term saint has been misunderstood and distorted. Saintliness has been identified with religious or moral perfection. Protestantism, for these reasons, has finally removed the concept of sainthood from theology and the reality of the saint from religion. But sainthood is not personal perfection. Saints are persons who are transparent for the ground of being which is revealed through them, and who are able to enter a revelatory constellation as mediums. Their being can become a sign event for others. This is the truth behind the Catholic practice of demanding miracles from every saint. Protestantism does not allow a difference between the saint and the ordinary believer. Every believer is a saint insofar as he belongs to the communion of saints, the new reality which is holy in its foundation, and every saint is an ordinary believer insofar as he belongs to those who need forgiveness of sins. On this basis, however, the believer can become a medium of revelation for others, and in this sense a saint. His faith and his love can become sign events for those who are grasped by their power and creativity. A rethinking of the problem of sainthood by Protestant theology is certainly needed. So that is where we are going to stop today. We will start again on Tuesday when I next see you. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you if you've stuck it out. We've got 2 viewers at the moment. So if you are a repeat visitor, welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome. We have today had a very good meeting, a very good transmission. We've gone over some of the headlines and some of the articles in the Church Times. We've had a bit of a chat about that, a bit of a conversation. We've also gone through the order of service for tomorrow, and what I will do is I will share with you the order of service for tomorrow, so that then you can see. And certainly what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the sermons page of our church with you now. You click on that link and it's stgeorgespatio.com/services. Okay, so you're very welcome to that, and you are very welcome to join us tomorrow at 3 p.m. Bangkok, Jakarta time, and see what we get up to in the chapel. Very good to see you, as I say. What we will do now is head over to the night prayer for Saturday the 17th of July, and I ask you now to join me as we pray. Lord of all power and might, the author and giver of all good things, graft in our hearts the love of your name. Increase in us true religion. Nourish us with all goodness, and of your great mercy keep us in the same. Through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, who is alive and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. So, thank you for joining me. We've done, I feel like we've done quite well. We've had a couple of people like us today through Facebook, and we've had a bit of engagement. We also, I told you, I think early on, we had that new follower called Rodin. So wonderful to see everyone being engaged today. Very, very good. And I'm going to say, without further ado, because it's getting a bit late here, it's 11:30 at night, and it's a full day tomorrow. So without further ado, with prayers and best wishes, bye-bye for now.